Okay, so hi folks. Welcome back. Rita Garrity here, the third class of the MPS Mindfulness series, Mindfulness Stress Resilience series. And hope you've had a good week. Maybe you did a couple of the practices, or maybe you watched the last video and did that. And I'm curious to know how that went. Um, what I want to do is start with a video about brain science today. And it's a phenomenon called neuroplasticity. Okay, so let me share my screen here.
Not so long ago, many scientists believed that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence, neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-traveled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road. It becomes easier for our brains to travel this pathway. Say we think about something differently, learn a new task, or choose a different emotion. We start carving out a new road. If we keep traveling that road, our brains begin to use this pathway more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The old pathway gets used less and weakens. This process of rewiring your brain by forming new connections and weakening old ones is neuroplasticity in action. The good news is that we all have the ability to learn and change by rewiring our brains. If you have ever changed a bad habit or thought about something differently, you have carved a new pathway in your brain and experienced neuroplasticity firsthand. With repeated and directed attention towards your desired change, you can rewire your brain.
Okay, great. So, like she said, the good news is that with neuroplasticity, we can rewire our brain to do something different. Babies are born with less connections in their brain, less neural pathways, because nature figured out that the brain needs to be adaptable to the environment that the baby is born in. So that's why they can learn whatever language of the country they're in. And then even if they move, they learn another language because they have all these new pathways that can be formed. And that's why later on in life, it's harder to learn a language because we have pathways formed in our own language and we try to learn something new, it's harder to move around, right? But we can change, learn new habits, good habits. Neuroplasticity is great for brain damage too, right? That's where they really felt positive about learning about this, which was about 30 years ago, that the brain can just reform new pathways, regenerate itself. Okay. And it makes sense. That's why we learn. That's how you're learning math right now, because you're going to understand, you're going to do equations over and over, and you're going to make a pathway and you're going to remember what to do, right? So the good news is that all we have to do is practice a habit over and over, and it creates a pathway, and it becomes automatic. Then the bad news, though, is that we can actually inadvertently do things that don't serve us well, habits that don't serve us well. So let me give you a couple examples. Maybe you're doing your homework and that makes you nervous, right? I know for me, when I do my bills, I get nervous. I just feel uneasy. It's not like super nervous, but uneasy. So you might, during that uneasiness, check your phone. For that second, while you're checking your phone, reading a few posts, your system deactivates because it's distracted from the nervousness of that you're feeling, possibly because of doing your homework. Um, and so then what happens is you create a pathway, right? The mind says, oh, check this out. If I check my phone, I feel less activated. Okay, great. So now you do that over and over and you create this pathway. Now it's automatic. It's like, feel nervous, check my phone. Feel less activated, nervous, check my phone. So now you're checking your phone all the time without even knowing that you're checking your phone, because neuroplasticity has made that pathway strong. So or another example is, let's say you get in an argument with someone, right? And you don't feel good and you're sad. And so you feel really bad and you go, I don't know, eat some chocolate ice cream. And then you feel better. You feel a little happier, a little, soothed. Again, you make that connection that, when I'm upset, emotional upset, if I eat chocolate ice cream, I feel better. And you're not doing this on a thinking level, it's happening on a wiring level in your brain. So then the more, next time you're in an emotional upheaval, you think to go to ice cream, and you do that over and over, and then all of a sudden any emotions, you just want that ice cream because you've created a habit. The problem with these kinds of habits is they're not really addressing your nervous system. They're distracting you from the stress. So remember, we talked last week about how the survival brain, the amygdala, the survival brain in the back, is always searching for threat, right? So what it's not fooled by the fact that you've distracted yourself from your test, or me from my bills, right? I'm sorry, your homework, or me from my bills. It says, no, this stuff is still out there, but now we're reading this. I get it. But the minute you go back to your homework, or me to my bills, the stress is right there. So what we have to do is use neuroplasticity to actually do the things that put on the brakes for our nervous system. So remember, in the last video, I showed you some things that put on the brakes. So bringing your attention to present moment experiences, some of them, the ones we're talking about, will soothe your nervous system, because what will happen is that your survival brain says, oh, if you bring your attention to like your contact points, like the practice we did last week, which was just notice the sensations of your body touching what's holding you up. Is it warm? Is it soft? Etc. Etc. When you're bringing your attention there, actually your survival brain is picking up the cues that, oh, this present moment is not stressful. Therefore, I'm deactivating, I'm putting on the brakes. And then if you do that often, right, then you create in your mind the pathway that says, oh, um, um, homework stressful, bringing my attention to my contact points, deactivating. And you do that over and over, you do it often, and you create the pathway, and then it becomes a habit and becomes automatic, which is important. And you're strengthening that muscle of being able to bring your attention, because sometimes, like I say, if it gets hijacked, right, by the survival brain, it's hard to bring your attention back. But if you practice it often, then you're going to have a strong attention muscle. So what we want to practice is those present moment experiences. And what is often? Well, for me, so it's different for everyone, right? And depending on the situation that you're in. So, like for me, and I come from a high stress background, meaning I have a lot of panic attacks in my life, and anxiety. Worked with it a lot. Now it's much less now, but I think I tend to like peak up faster than your average person. So if I'm doing the bills, and maybe there's some phone calls to insurance companies I have to make or something, and I'm starting to get, revved up, because those bills are pressing on the accelerator. Remember, we talked about the gas pedal, and how, my heart starts pounding and breathing heavier because I have to talk to somebody and maybe, debate about whether they owe me or not. So I put on the brakes maybe 3 or 4 times an hour in that type of a situation. And again, it's not a long term, okay, sit down, close your eyes, do this thing. It's basically, oh, I notice I'm revving up, my gas pedal is being pressed by this situation, and I'm going to put on the brakes by bringing my attention, maybe taking a deep breath and bringing my attention to the sensation of my feet on the floor, or my body in the chair. Maybe 10 seconds. Yeah. So, and then again, the more you do it, the better you get at it, the more easier it becomes. And just as an example, the other day, my daughter's coming from Peru. She has an appointment. She lives in Peru and she's coming, and she had her flight canceled the morning of when she was supposed to fly. And so she tasked me with finding another flight. And it was stressful. It took about 4 hours. And there were glitches, and you have to go through this, and they wouldn't let us pay. And there was all this, and the time stress, right? Because she needed to leave at a certain time in order to get here on the day for her appointment. And so I watched myself constantly bringing my attention to a present moment experience of my contact points, taking a deep breath, bringing my attention to that sensation of that deep breath, and constantly calm myself down. And I didn't end up like screaming at anybody, which I have in the past. I was able to manage that stress because of neuroplasticity, because I've created those pathways and bringing my attention to present moment experiences, which is mindfulness, right? Okay, so enough talk. I hope that was understandable. And again, you can always email me. So let's do a practice right now. And so we can create another pathway, right? So these classes, I'm going to give you many places to, many present moment experiences to put your attention to. We call them anchors. Most will be soothing, hopefully. Some will just be interesting, and they're a kind of, you can't avoid them. So I want you to know what it's like if your attention goes there. But I want you to like just notice how they are, so you can in fact decide if they're soothing or not. Because some present moment experiences, some focuses that we'll use, some anchors that we'll use will not be deactivating for you. And so that's okay. It's a good thing to notice and say, yeah, I'm going to throw that out the window. This one, maybe it's good. I'm going to keep that one. Okay. And you'll know by doing it and seeing what it feels like. So today we're going to do the mindful practice of noticing sound. Okay. So first I'd like to, and now I have my construction outside. I think I talked to you about last week. And so, well, it's sound, right? So if you begin by let's see. Uh, let's see. Okay, begin by getting comfortable. There we go. That's what I meant to say. Get yourself comfortable. I'll straighten myself up here. Kind of signaling to your body that you're going to begin to settle down, quiet down. Okay, and allow your eyes, to be open. If you like that whole thing about noticing something soothing and you want to look at something soothing, go ahead and do that. Or you can close your eyes. Try that a little bit. Sometimes that's really good. Sometimes I'll have my eyes closed. Sometimes I'll have my eyes open. It all depends on what my inside self tells me feels good at that point. Or if you just want to have a low gaze, like you could just look down at something that, so that you're not looking around a lot. Yeah. Okay. And then I invite you to take a couple of deep breaths. Remembering to let that exhale be long, because actually that's where some deactivation happens. That's where the brakes are put on. That's one thing we have control over. A deep breath helps with the long exhale. Okay, so now instead of our contact points, I'm going to give you another. I think I talked about this last time, but I want to bring it in again to see if it's something that resonates with you. If you can bring your attention to the sensation of gravity, so you know that's like that heavy feeling, right? We're feeling kind of heavy to the ground, feeling pulled maybe, pulled to the chair or the couch, wherever you are. And to see if you can notice that sensation in your body. And where do you notice it in your body? The heaviness, like I notice it kind of in my shoulders are drooping. I even feel it in my cheeks. They kind of droop. Just allowing yourself to be heavy. And if you notice there's any tension stopping that heaviness, something in your jaw or somewhere, again, just bringing your attention to it for a second, inviting it to relax. See what that does. And if there's no shift, and just allow it, we won't judge it. Okay. So I'd like you to just open your attention up to sound in your environment. And I don't know if you can hear my computer clicking messages. I'm not sure how to turn it off on the computer. I turn off my phone, but I don't know how to do it on the computer. But those are sounds, right? Actually, it's probably my daughter because she's in an airport somewhere. But noticing the sounds in your environment. So there could be things you hear on my end. There could be things you hear in other rooms of your house. Maybe you're outside. Maybe you have a window open. You hear some nature sounds, some birds. You might even hear your own heartbeat, some sounds in your body, your breath. So let's just see for a moment if you can bring your attention to these sounds and trying not to judge them. Like if you notice you're going, oh, I hate that sound, or I wish that would stop. I get it. There's sounds that are uncomfortable. It's not wrong to judge them. But see if you could just say, okay, just for now, it's a sound and I'll allow it. Now, what might happen as we get quieter, the thinking brain gets a little bored and it starts to think. And actually, the survival brain might kick in and say, you should be doing your homework now or worrying about that uh, equation that you couldn't understand or things you have to do. So if you start to get some thoughts, I'm going to invite you to notice them, but then see if you can pull your attention away and back to the sounds. And if it helps, you can even describe the sounds in your mind. Like, okay, actually, you might hear my kitty cat. There's a lot of sounds in my environment here. And if that's making it hard for you, I apologize. Um, But yeah, I hear a high-pitched sound. I hear my kitty. I heard those clicks of computer. And what are you hearing? So we're just going to do the mindfulness thing of being curious, noticing sound in a curious way. The present moment experience of sound. And if you notice, so you could be noticing some thoughts, or maybe you notice some activation about being quiet. So that's good information, right? If it's not too activating, you can just say, wow, I just noticed it. We're not going to judge it. I notice that when I get quiet or that I feel a little activated. Yeah, we don't have to judge that or make any meaning of that. If it's really super uncomfortable, you can pop out, open your eyes, move your neck around. But for right now, maybe we just stay with the experience again. How is this experience of sound for you? And can we just track it with our attention? Okay. So now I'm going to ask you to kind of bring your attention back to the gravity in your body, because we're going to start coming back now. We're going to end this session. So you're noticing the contact points of your body in the chair. You can wiggle your toes, maybe wiggle your fingers. Stretch your neck. And then when you feel ready, go ahead and open your eyes and look around. Get your bearings, your orientation. There's my kitty. Yeah, so just notice how that was for you, right? The point of this lesson is, if we practice more often, because of neuroplasticity, the more often we practice bringing our attention to our present moment experience. Here's my kitty. I'll let you see him. His name is Fry. The more often we practice bringing our attention to present moment experience, the stronger that habit will get, and it'll become easier. And then when things are super stressful, we will have a muscle and a habit that can actually bring our attention away from perceived threat, right, from the survival brain. Yeah. And then the other part of this video was to check out sound. What is it like to pay attention to just sound? Was that pleasant for you, or did you not like it? You want to try it again? So I hope you actually do some of these practices on your own. You can play the video again, or just try it on your own. You know, every once in a while, if you notice yourself getting a little stressed and you want to check your phone, see if you can like take a deep breath, notice some sound maybe, right? And let it be there for a minute until you might detect a little bit of deactivation. See what happens, see how it works. Okay, so thank you folks, and I'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.